Okay, I see people are joining. I hope that you're setting up your connection well. You'll have your audio tuned in for a very important topic of this week's State of Poland discussion. Um, and we're waiting just for a few more people to join in. It's actually the registration went full house, and we're expecting, as usual, statistical predictability. It's 50% of show-ups. And then, of course, the recordings are available, like from the previous meetings. The first part of the meeting is on the record, and it's available later for our subscribers. And the second part is off the record, so it's a privilege of those who actually join to have a discussion and take the most out of it by active participation. We will encourage you to ask questions throughout the meeting in the chat. We will also take your questions on like live, simply when you raise hand and you want to speak up. I should say that this is part of State of Poland series of discussions that we're holding this week. Like we had a series of talks, State of Slovakia, focusing on critical sectors of Polish state, Polish economy, Polish foreign relations. Specifically, we shed light on the Polish-Ukrainian question earlier this week. And today we're discussing State of Polish Defense. This event is organized for subscribers of Visegrad Insight and also those who declared they will subscribe. And we we'll remind you also to subscribe for those who are newly joining this session. We're very grateful to those who are active supporters of Visegrad Insight already. And I should also say that the recordings will be available by tomorrow. Again, for subscribers only. The first part of each discussion is on the record, promoted this way. We're having this discussion ahead of the very important elections. Each election is the most important since 1989, and so is this one. And on Monday, we will have also a recap, sort of first impressions after the vote, and the majority of votes hopefully counted, if not all of the votes counted. So stay tuned, check your mailboxes for the invitation, and join us to understand what has happened after the weekend. But today we're focusing not so much on the electoral dynamics, but we have fantastic three guest speakers with us to navigate our discussion through a very prominent subject of defense, not just because it is so important in times of global tensions, but also because we have seen so many moving pieces and changing dynamics in Poland, giving speculations of many journalists, and then the narrative of rise of power, or the center of gravity moving towards Poland. We'll try to look behind the curtain of sorts to discuss let's say the strategic context for the Polish strategy, defense strategy, and the plans. We will talk about let's say the feasibility of these plans to be fulfilled in the coming years, because what you see is an enormous number of purchases in the pipeline, and increase of the personnel of the army. And finally, we will also touch upon a bit of a topic which gets us closer to elections. I believe we'll maybe get off the record there. The topic of polarization, strategic communication, and ability to govern Poland through this difficult times. So I'll introduce now our speakers. Justyna Gotkowska, she's the Deputy Director of the Center of Eastern Studies, OSW, known to some, OSW, known to many as one of the powerhouses of analysis on Central Eastern Europe and even beyond. Piotr Łukasiewicz, ambassador and colonel of the Polish Army from Polityka Insight. We're not connected, though we are providing insight as well, in any way institutionally. A diplomat and analyst also on the questions of of Defense, and Sigita Struberga from the Latvian Transatlantic Organization, who has been not only organizing the most important Baltic conference on defense and security, Riga conference, and this is actually upcoming very soon next week, but also a scholar and expert, a voice of female leaders on security and defense within the NATO framework of strategic communication. So I'm really proud to also have Sigita among the Visegrad Insight Marcin Król Fellows for this year. And Sigita will kick off our Q&A session. Okay, I think I spoke quite a lot for the introduction, but now I wanted to get a sense of a context in which we can discuss Polish strategies of defensive strategies of Poland, essentially. That includes purchases, armed purchases, but overall, I think it should start with more of an overview of our strategic analysis. How does Poland look at the current turmoil globally, and where it prioritizes its effort for deterrence and also for, simply speaking, resilience against being overridden by the problems of today. Justyna, may I turn to you for this analysis first?
Sure. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to share with you my insights on how I see Polish defense and security policy developing. And I think that what you have mentioned, these massive purchases, are an effect of, I think, taking the security environment by this current government seriously. And I think this government and this analyzes that we are heading towards very unstable and insecure times is shared also by the opposition. We might go into detail later on in the discussion, but I think that's a general understanding of the situation is that we are entering a kind of a new era where powers like Russia, Iran, as we are seeing now, and China want to undermine regional security orders, whether this is in Europe, whether this is in the Middle East, or possibly also in the Indo-Pacific. And Russia, from our perspective, expressed its strategic goals quite clearly in December 2021, just before the invasion of Ukraine, stating in the two draft treaties that it wants simply subordinate Ukraine or the have a zone of influence over the post-Soviet space, undermine or limit sovereignty of the Eastern European states, undermine NATO and the EU. And now we are in a situation where actually we don't know how the war in Ukraine is going on. After a year and a half, I think that the West has not used the possibilities to the full to weaken Russia. We are entering a very unstable time of policymaking in the US. We see all the discussions in the Congress about the new financial package for Ukraine, which will determine how much military support the US will be able to deliver. We have Europe that, in my opinion, is not taking this, or Western Europe that is not taking the current security situation as seriously as the Eastern flank countries do. I think that we cannot exclude scenarios where Russia might go in a few years' time also against Eastern flank countries, Poland included. I will only repeat the military analysis that is coming also from NATO military officers and shared by the Polish military staff, that Russia has retained to large parts capabilities in its navy, and the air force, of course, will need time to rebuild capabilities in the land forces. But the frame that we think Russia is able to do so, maybe on a lower technological level, but having mass and still production capabilities to do so, is shorter than many in Western Europe saying, and that might be some 3 to 5 some positive scenarios or positive voices say that might be 7 years. So all this tells us here in Poland, and I suppose in the Eastern flank countries as well, that we need to invest quickly, efficiently in the armed forces, that we need to spend at least 3%, and this 3% threshold is actually one that almost all the countries on the eastern flank are heading. Also, the Baltic states. Poland, this government has written that into a law that was adopted by the Polish parliament. So there is a perceived need to strengthen Polish armed forces quickly, efficiently. Also, to replenish the stocks or the military equipment that was given away to Ukraine. And I think people do not understand that Poland has given away a lot of military equipment that has effectively limited and decreased military defense deterrence capabilities of the Polish armed forces, and these gaps need to be filled in with quick purchases, and then on the top of that, in the land forces, the Air Force party, the Navy needs to be strengthened, and of course the question is how to do that. And we will have a review of these purchases after the election. If an opposition government comes to power, we will have definitely discussions on whether the current plans are possible to be implemented, whether we have money to finance them, whether there are money to maintain this equipment, training, exercises for the years to come, because that will be a huge effort. But I think that there is a conviction and across the political spectrum in Poland that we need to do so. The question is about the scope and about the ways how to do that.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Thank you. Thank you, Justyna, for providing this comprehensive picture. And now, the purchases are indeed a bipartisan agreement, as well as the modernization of the army that includes expansion of the numbers from roughly, I think, 180,000 to 300,000 in several years, which is a massive move upwards after the army has been scaling down prior and after joining NATO. Basically, this is a personnel reform. So there are enormous changes if you look at that from the scale of our country. But my question now to Piotr will be whether that is buying us enough credibility, which is also part of the collective action in terms of deterrence and building up resilience, collective resilience. So in other words, is Poland doing enough, paradoxically, on that front?
Well, Poland, Wojciech and the rest of the Visegrad Insight staff, thank you very much for organizing this and for inviting me. Whether we are building our credibility, well, we are saying that we are buying. So, and we are buying what we are saying or what we are promising. At least we are signing, Polish MOD is signing the contracts, and with the hope and the obvious caveats Mrs. Gotkowska already mentioned, economic and demographic one. I would like to stress out the demographic part of, increasing from 100 roughly 30,000 soldiers, maybe 50,000 soldiers to the expected or announced level of 300,000 soldiers, which I believe is something that would be very, very, very difficult to achieve by Poland, given the current job market, demography, and many other factors that are important. It's not only buying heavy stuff, heavy sophisticated stuff. Of course, this is the entry point for a necessary modernization. It's a process of transformation, actually, from the somehow island type modernization that we had in the past, in the last 15-20 years, where you had only places of the modern kind of approaches to training and equipment and kinds of weapons that are needed for the modern battlefield, to the full-fledged modernization that is promised, that is signed up already, and whether we will fulfill it, whether we will achieve actually this full modernization, this is dependent on the factors we already, I believe, both mentions. What is important also here, I would like to stress the necessary reforms in the organizations of our army, of our armed forces. And in this regard, I have many doubts because, to say it generally, we have a problem in our constitution with the system of who is actually the structure of defense is somehow difficult to explain shortly, but the constitution makes it is always the origin of the problems we have when we are discussing who is actually running things during the peacetime and during the wartime. And the many approaches taken, many attempts taken from 2012 to reorganize, to properly structure command and control were showing that how many difficulties we have with this structure. With the recent, I'm sure you are aware of the recent events, quite surprising events. In my opinion, being I'm talking about the resignation of the two main officers, two main commanders of the army, being part of this discussion, being part of these problems I have mentioned. So yes, we will have a heavy staff. Hopefully, we will be able to man a great portion of this heavy stuff we are buying, and hopefully we will have a command that would be efficient enough to manage this whole sector. There is also a elephant in the room. I mean, politics and the kind of a political situation between Poland and allies. I'm not sure whether armed forces modernization is a right place. The topic of modernization is the right place to discuss the political nuances of Polish relations with allies, but we have to also take it into consideration. I'm very strongly believe, and this is matter of beliefs and experience, maybe rather than something objective, rather than objective knowledge. So I'm talking from my let's say opinion, from the bottom of my heart. I'm talking to you about it. I strongly believe that Poland is safe when we have a good allies, and when we are in the alliances, both bilateral but multilateral, in the so-called transatlantic organizations, both security and economic and political ones. This is the network that we can rely when we talk about our security. I don't really follow the new superpower in the center of Europe idea or narrative. This has proven wrong in the past in Poland, including many instances from the deeper past, and I just strongly believe that the future of our defense relies very much on the quality of our alliances in the future, even if we have this heavy stuff and proper organization to defend ourselves. So that's my kind of a general picture, and maybe we'll go into details and then more tricky questions.
I will leave the tricky questions, including several political ones, for the off-the-record session, if you allow me, to make it even more interesting for those who are now with us and for those who will watch later, to just be encouraged to join our sessions in full next time. That will include the recent absence of the Polish Minister of Defense at a meeting with other NATO ministers that was also attended by Mr. Zelensky. There is the recent development of resignations and the question of political interference in army in general, but also the role the army plays in politics and in the perceptions about Polish security. And there is also this question, to elaborate, I think Justyna already mentioned the arms deliveries from Poland, but also arms deliveries through Poland and the hub, transportation logistical hub that Poland plays in sustaining the military effort of Ukraine in defending and recapturing back the territory it has lost so far to Russia. But these are probably these elements that we can discuss more openly, along with more political subjects, just in a moment. I have a very specific question back to you, Justyna. I mean, Poland is so far staying away from the European Shield initiative. Also, France is not there, but somehow, strikingly, if you look at the map of Central Eastern Europe, Poland is absent from this common initiative for securing skies. Do we feel secure enough with the equipment we're buying or we bought already, or is there any other motive of why we're not part of the common effort to secure the skies, especially given what we see that both from Ukraine and recently from Israel, that can be a massive help, let's say, to against any intrusion in our skies.
Yeah, I think I will answer this question, but I want to underline the issue that was mentioned, because I focus that much on the investments in modernizing and reforms of the armed forces. And I think for every Pole, it's obvious that Poland will not be able to defend itself on its own. And NATO is an obvious alliance that we need to strengthen, and along with our ties within the US. So from Polish perspective, along rebuilding the capabilities of the armed forces, along strengthening capabilities of the Polish armed forces, enlarging the military, which the regional defense planning and its implementation, as agreed in Vilnius, is key. And that is something that Polish officials in Brussels and NATO are working upon. This is something that Polish military staff is working upon, so that we have credible plans built in with capabilities from the countries of the Eastern Flank, of course, but also from the Western European countries, from the US, so that these plans are credible. But at the same time, we have to realize that we are a frontline state, that we will be the first responders in case of a Russian attack, that we don't have enough allied presence, neither in the Baltic states nor in Poland, and we need to strengthen our own capabilities along Article 3, if I'm not mistaken, that each country needs to be able to defend itself together with the allies. So this is the basics. But then coming to your question, and my answer would be, I think this European Sky Shield initiative has been discussed in Poland, quite controversial. I'm a bit. I think that it might have a political value to be in the initiative. This is an initiative that is supposed to, or is planned to, provide a platform for countries to buy jointly certain air defense systems. And we have, I think, Latvia and Estonia that are buying together one of the systems in question, meaning German IRIS-T, a short-range air defense system. Whether you need the European Sky Shield Initiative as a platform for that is another issue, but it's nicely framed. You don't have actually other countries right now buying something together. Maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I follow, I don't see that. So what so the German idea was that Patriot systems, IRIS-T systems, first of all, and Arrow 3 could be an issue of joint purchases. If you look at the current Polish plans, we are somehow beyond this what is being offered within the ESSI. Poland is buying right now modern US Patriot batteries with some kind of Polish involvement of the Polish armed industry. This is in the medium range. Poland is buying and developing jointly with the UK short-range systems like NADEF, and is buying 23 batteries. This is huge. In the short-range system, and the very short-range level, Poland is buying 21 Pilica Plus batteries. That's a lot. So whether if we implement these plans, and we are much advanced in the process of buying that, we will have one of the most elaborate and strongest defense systems across all layers on the eastern flank, compared maybe with Finland. This will take time. We are not yet there, but I think we cannot allow ourselves to change plans and to switch to some other options. And it's hugely important to quickly and efficiently implement what has been discussed. And I think if all these programs will be realized, that will be a huge win for the Polish armed forces, regardless of who is in power. So therefore, the plans within the European Sky Shield Initiative are not really an offer for Poland, in my opinion, that we might take, having really elaborate plans for purchase of air defense systems across all layers. But politically, of course, that might be an idea for the next government to reconsider joining ESSI, to have an overview how the air defense capabilities are being developed in Europe, what are the thinking of our allies. But after all, it's not the ESSI that is important, but it's the NATO integrated and missile defense system that is the basic platform for the cooperation, for the coordination, for interoperability within NATO.
Thank you. Now, Piotr, a quick question to you, and then I'll ask Sigita. I don't know, Sigita, if you want to start off the record or on the record before we go into Q&A. Well, but yeah, we'll decide in a moment. But Piotr, now picking on again this common defense effort and alliances. Poland has been initially opposing the European Peace Facility, which has been primarily designed to support with hardware support the plans for Africa. And then it turned out it was one of the biggest beneficiaries, and it kind of learned to appreciate the common European solidarity in arms deliveries, or simply financing the arms export of Poland and many others. In the context of the war in Ukraine. What do you think is also coming up in the discussions that are following in Europe on strengthening defense and defense sector, that Poland might be, needs to adjust or learn or pay attention to? Where's the dynamic, given also a potential change in power in Poland?
Well, there's, of course, the decisions were made already that we are, the directions are quite obvious. US and Korean direction is our main sources. I mean, these are two main sources of the modernization in our army. There are few channels left smaller. I'm talking about Navy modernization, you know, the possibility that we will enter some form of cooperation with Sweden when it comes to submarines. There is a chance that we will continue cooperation with the European producers of the naval defense, rockets, missiles. We already have some few batteries of Kongsberg products, so to say. So there are fields where we can actually continue or even expand this European cooperation. What is unfortunate, or well, some would say there is a slight chance that we will come back to this program, is the European tank. General idea of having, European tank. Probably this period is over. We are kind of in the phasing out Leopards and Leopard type tanks, because obvious reasons. First, we are buying American and Korean, so probably the era of Leopard in Polish armed forces will come to the end in the next 10, 15, maybe 20 years. They would become kind of a legacy equipment. That's unfortunate, according to colleagues of mine who still remember how important Leopard was in Polish armed forces, and how they built not only a tank but also the culture around this tank. I'm talking about doctrine, maintenance, resources, kind of a knowledge how to use them properly, and how to put them in the context of what else we have. This is kind of a lost chance, or well, the period of Leopard is probably, as I said, is getting to. I mean, is coming to the end in the nearest future. Same with helicopters. There was opening with Airbus cooperation 8 years ago that was cancelled by the current government. So we are again going into US-made aircrafts, both type helicopters and fighter jets, and support aircraft, support jets. So decisions made already are kind of showing the direction. So there are not much left for this broad cooperation with European producers, and maybe even going there to the common market, common industry, or whatever. If there is idea like that in Europe, probably Poland will only kind of a supplement in the niche areas rather than be the important part of it. So well, as I said, political declarations are right now from both, let's say, political forces, both blocks, to continue the procurement. And I don't think, I mean, what we can ask, what we can challenge maybe is the scope of it, continuation, but not the geographical direction. Maybe, well, of course, that would sound scary if opposition politicians specializing in armed forces, I'm not talking about me, but I'm talking about the proper politician, would challenge, let's say, South Korean direction, right? South Korean procurement this time, especially before the elections. So they are not saying that. They are not saying that, even when they privately comment on this. Well, and I kind of agree with that. Rather strange sources of modern equipment. Strange in terms of geographics, maintenance, lines of resourcing this type of equipment. But no one said that. No one would dare right now to say that there will be a kind of a second thoughts on Korean procurement, and but this again, this depends on the it depends not only on the political choices, I believe, but you know, but actually looking into the budget. I mean, this is the big question mark regarding this whole whole programs, the future budget of Poland.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just to give you a reminder, if you look into the numbers, it's about the expected expenditure for purchases is, I think, 22 billion euro per year. Half of it is from, no, it's something else. Okay, Justyna will correct me in a moment, but half of it probably is through borrowing money rather than having our own resources already for it. So there's a lot, I guess we'll touch that on the budget level, and there are already questions in the chat. But before we go to a Q&A session, I wanted to give the floor for first responder, Sigita Struberga, and ask you maybe, you know, in the relationship to, in relation to what you also heard, how would you say what are the big questions that pop up from outside of Poland about the state of Polish defense? Where are the, you know, where is the real interest also from partners around Poland?
Yeah, thank you, Wojciech, and thank you very much for inviting and hearing this interesting internal discussion, because indeed I'm looking from outside on those ongoing debates. I would say that one of the kind of I wouldn't say fears, but what makes experts careful is exactly this kind of overwhelming, in a way, interest for buying weapons in South Korea and United States, taking in consideration this internal discussion in EU, where increasingly industry itself and experts are warning that we need to strengthen European industry. And in this sense, Latvia, by the way, it seems that our MOD will follow your way, but in a way, but on another, in sense that in Latvia, we are going also to establish some kind of state corporations, which might start to work on like state-funded corporations, which would start to produce weaponry. But then the question which rises is that there are investments in Poland for that, but at the same time, money flows out of Poland and out of EU. And the question is then about efficiency, whether it is in the long term, is this type of activity sufficient, and is this a really strategic approach in the long term? Then also what is quite typical for Baltic states as well, but when you look on Poland, you can see absolutely the same, or even in kind of higher, it's even more intense. It's our reliance on United States, and in a way there is a question. What if government in the United States change in the direction which we wouldn't like it to change, and whether we will have the same support, and then if not, in a case if not, and the relations with our Western European partners will not be as good as it should be, whether that will be the option. And as you correctly said from very beginning, although Poland is purchasing a huge amount of weaponry, whether Poland will be able to protect itself or defend itself, not really. So those are questions which we are raising. But I have the question regarding.
Sigita, maybe if you leave, Sigita, may you just keep this question for after we turn off the recording, and then we can start properly Q&As, because we are heading into the second half an hour already a little bit with extra time.